Hopefully everyone's had a nice summer, whatever you do before the summer. We do only have 2 working microphones, so Anne-Marie's going to be moving the microphone, so when we're asking questions, we're going back and forth. There might be a little bit of a delay in getting the microphone, somebody obviously passing it around. So just please bear with us this afternoon. Agenda item 1, evacuation procedure. As always, in the event of fire alarm sounds, please go out to the bottom of the roads, go by the nearest exit, and we'll all meet there. Agenda item 2, apologies for absence. Is there any apologies for absence?
Apologies from Councillors Branson, Cooper, Gaffigan, Hubbard, Saunders, Hill, Hussain,
Livingston.
Councillor Livingston. Thank you.
Any declarations of interest this evening? Councillor.
Item 15, one of the panel members, Mark White, has been a close colleague of mine in my last employment, so I thought I should declare that interest, though I have no communication with him at all about this particular matter.
Thank you, Councillor. So, agenda item 4, minutes from the previous meeting, can they be moved as correct?
Agreed.
Thank you. We're going to move one of the agenda items around. We're going to go to the motion section on request of one of the panel members. So we're going to move to that section, which is agenda item number 13. I need to advise that on the request of Councillor Story, both of the motions 175 and 176 have been withdrawn at my consent. I'm now going to move, if it's all right with Councillor Platt, which is going to move the order of the motions. I'm going to invite Councillor Tye to present their motion for the lead seconder also. Just read out. You read it and then she'll second it.
Any child educated receives a minimum level of qualification. You have to excuse me, but my voice is going. Any child educated, i.e. at home, receives a minimum level of education comparable with that which the child could have otherwise received. And the child will be educated at an Ofsted inspected school. With adequate child protection procedures are in place to ensure so far as possible that the child is safe and free from potential harm. Ofsted has a requirement to carry out inspections to assess the quality of education, care and training, to ensure that the parent or whoever is providing the education meets the required standards. And finally, public bodies such as the police and social services have a statutory right of access to ensure the safety and the protection of the child. And can I just add, with your permission, Chair, when this went in the Legal Gazette, a lot of people interpreted it wrongly, so I'd like to add this. I have no objections to children being educated at home. Indeed, some of them need to be for very substantial reasons. What I'm asking is some form of safeguarding of the children that aren't educated, that aren't wanted by anybody now. And I was also asking for a meeting for all councillors with the deputy mayor and senior officers to fill in councillors with regard to the situation. I've asked several councillors and they have no idea what authority we have, if any, over home-educated children. It needs a statute.
Thank you, Councillor Tye. Councillor Espat, would you like to second the motion? Thank you. Obviously, you've got a reserved right to speak at the end. Yeah, no worries. We're going to invite members to speak on the motion. Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I should probably declare interest that I nominate pecuniary interest. I'm employed as an education campaigns manager for a national charity, and although we don't work on home education per se, we do, or I do work on the legal loopholes associated with home education, so I'm speaking on that. Yeah, I actually completely agree with this motion. I think from my own professional experience, we see a lot of loopholes and how they are exploited. I think firstly, as Councillor Tyson said, it's important to stress that there is a right of parents to home educate, and that should be protected. But at the same time, there's also a right of children to receive a broad, balanced and safe education in a safe environment. And for my view, that right trumps the former right, and that's why I'm very keen to see regulation and restriction legislation go through on that. That's why I'm also interested to see this motion, because actually at this present time, in fact, probably at this moment, I think, in the House of Lords, the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill is being debated, and within that bill there includes the a measure for children not in school register, which is effectively a home education register. It includes a single identification number, which is for young people, effectively like a national insurance number. And it includes the powers for local authorities to basically ensure that the education the child is receiving at home is fit and proper, and also the person who is giving that education is fit and proper. It gives Ofsted stronger powers to investigate. It also gives local authorities the powers to say if the person is fit or proper, or that child is not receiving a proper education, that they are then go back to school. So a lot of what is in the motion is actually currently happening in Parliament, and I think it's good that this is happening. From our work, we deal with young people who, and this is an extreme, who through the guise of home education have been, although they're essentially home educated because there's no restrictions or regulation, they have been sent off to spend 12 hours a day. They come from very close communities, 12 hours a day just to learn religious texts. These are people who live in London, they live in Manchester, and when they come out of that education, they cannot speak English. They have no maths education, they have no qualifications, they have no understanding of how the modern world works, and that's because loopholes are allowing that to happen. Again, parents should be able to educate their child at home if that is the appropriate way, but it should be appropriate, and those loopholes need to be closed to ensure that those kind of children are not falling through the gaps and are given the proper education fit for modern British society. And that's why I completely support this. I'm really pleased to see Councillor Tye putting this through, and I'm really pleased to see that we're actually supporting what is some really important legislation that's going through Parliament now. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Councillor?
I can't agree with my...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I've actually got a couple of questions, and I don't know who best to direct them to, really. Possibly Councillor McTighe. Yeah, it's just what, and I'm sorry if I've missed this in the motion, but do we not know what the scale of the issue is in Middlesbrough? And also, what are the current safeguards? Are there any at all? So just those two questions, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, there are approximately 112 children, as I'm told, home educated. And with regard to what authority we have, nobody seems to know. This is why we're putting this forward. I've asked several councils over the last few days and weeks, and they did ask them council this evening, and they didn't know. I've also asked the Deputy Mayor, she's kindly agreed, though perhaps it isn't necessary now, nice to the point. I asked her if she could possibly have a meeting arranged for all councils who wanted to attend and senior officers involved in education to let us know where we stand at this moment in time. And she agreed to that, but I imagine we don't need it now, or I'll leave it in your hands anyway. Does that answer you okay?
Yeah, that helps. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to invite Councillor Hendon to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to answer some of those questions that Councillor Smiles and Councillor McTighe have asked. There are 358 children being home educated in Middlesbrough, and as Councillor McTighe says, for a variety of reasons. When that decision is made, we as a local authority have the duty to do safety checks and look at the quality of that education, but we do not have the power to refuse. We ultimately have the ability to direct a child back to school, but that is a really long process where we have significant concerns about safeguarding and that quality. It takes a lot of interventions and work and ultimately court orders to do that. So I agree with this motion that we as a council have found that the powers that we currently have are not sufficient, and that's why I'm really pleased that the Labour government is delivering on this in the Children's Welfare and Schools Bill. And I imagine it's not often that Councillor McTighe is on finds herself on the side of the Labour Party and the Labour government, but I'm pleased to see her supporting that agenda. As Councillor Young said, it beefs up that support. It gives local authorities the power to refuse that application for home education in certain circumstances and make sure that children who need to be in school are in school. I just wanted to point out some of the other things that are in Labour's Child Welfare and Schools Bill, because it's a really important piece of legislation. There are free breakfast clubs in there. There are limits on the cost of school uniforms, which will make a big difference to children in Middlesbrough. There is the single identifying number that helps track children and it keeps them safe. New powers to make sure that the previously looked after children have a school place, and the ability to open local authority maintained schools again, which is very welcome indeed. So I'm really pleased to see this motion, and I'm happy to support it.
And I think Councillor Westplatte had their hand up prior. Did you want to speak to? No, apologies.
I want to answer that,
Yeah.
please.
You'll right at the end, you'll have the right to reply. Just, yeah. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? No. Councillor McTighe, you've got obviously now the opportunity to sum up, and yours will be the last one on this motion.
Fine, yes. I'd just like to answer Councillor Henman. I wasn't supporting Labour's policy at all, because I didn't know anything about it until this evening.
Now you get comrade.
But I'm not your comrade. I'm not your comrade, and I never will be. But in the 22 years I've been a councillor here, and most of those years, Labour has dominated this council. So my question is, why haven't you done it before now? Thank you.
I'm now going to invite the monitor officer to conduct a vote on the motion.
Can I see a show of hands of all those in favour of the motion? Thank you. Motion is carried.
Thank you. We're going to stay on agenda item 13. I'm going to invite Councillor J. Platt to present the motion.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Councillor Story for supporting my motion. Middlesbrough have produced a remarkable number of elite athletes across a wide range of sports who have represented England at a senior level, including but not limited to football, rugby, cricket, athletics, table tennis. In fact, there was a Keith Schellenberg represented England at bobsleigh, believe it or not. That these sportsmen and women should have their outstanding achievements of representing England at senior level in their respective sports formally recognised. That the Council agrees in principle to commission and fund the creation of a permanent honours board listing the names of these individuals and others identified, costs also to be identified. That the honours board will be installed in a prominent location within Middlesbrough Town Centre, ensuring visibility and accessibility to residents and visitors alike. That the Council consults with local historians, sports organisations and community groups to compile a comprehensive list, an accurate list of qualifying individuals. The League, in liaison with the bodies and agreeing the initial list for the Honours Board, will be myself. The Council resolves to formally recognise the outstanding achievements of sportsmen and sportswomen born in Middlesbrough who have represented England at senior level in their respective disciplines, since the end of the Second World War. This will be, excuse me, this will be by the way of the introduction of the Sports Persons Honours Board, which will serve as a public tribute to the town's sporting heritage, celebrating the talent and dedication of those who have brought national pride through the representation of England. These individuals exemplify Middlesbrough's rich sporting legacy, and a dedicated honours board will not only celebrate their achievements, but also inspire future generations. Sorry, Chair, you give me two more minutes, is that?
You're going to get a chance to speak once Councillor Story. Invite Councillor Story to second the motion.
Thank you. I'm absolutely delighted to second this motion from Councillor Platt. It was very humbling to have been asked, and I fully support the objective of celebrating the amazing sporting talent that we have in Middlesbrough, from football, swimming, kayaking and judo. We have a huge wealth of talent, and honouring our sports people for their achievement is absolutely the right thing to do. We have a proud heritage of national sporting heritage, and we should all celebrate our sports people for the roles for role models, not just for themselves and for Middlesbrough, but also for future generations, because it's our children who are going to be going on and doing this, and hopefully this will inspire them.
And I'll invite Councillor J. Platt to speak to the motion.
Thank you again, Chair. Since I've ordered this motion, I've done some research with the help of friends, and we've come up with, so far, 51 names. Just a couple I would like to mention. Chris Tomlinson completed in the Olympic Games of Great Britain in the 2004 Olympics in Athens, 2008 in Beijing, and 2012 in London, as well as numerous World Championships and Commonwealth Games. Mari Fitzroy, I hope I pronounced that correctly, was a lady born in Middlesbrough to a Polish father and Middlesbrough mother, and she represented England ladies football back in 1980. Mari is a proud Middlesbrough-born lady who managed Middlesbrough ladies for several years and continues to work for Middlesbrough FC Foundation. I can tell you as a former sports person that there's nothing more special as when the national anthem is played, you realise at that particular moment you are the best at what you do for your country. These Middlesbrough sports people deserve to be recognised by Middlesbrough Council for their international achievements. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to invite members to speak on the motion. Councillor Time.
I fully support this motion because all too often we see in our local evening paper, no disrespect to Daniel, and these stories are picked up by national newspapers highlighting what's wrong with Middlesbrough. And this will not only be picked up by the Evening Gazette, but also go in national newspapers of what Middlesbrough has produced. And most people don't know, I don't know, I live in Middlesbrough all my life, and I don't recognise many of the names that Councillor Pratt has announced. So yes, I fully support it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Would any of the members wish to speak on the motion this evening? And I'm going to invite the Monitoring Officer to conduct the vote on that motion.
Can I see a show of hands, please? All those in favour of the motion? Thank you. The motion is carried.
We're now going to go back to agenda item 5, announcements and communications. There is none this evening. Agenda item 6, questions from the member of the public. No valid questions have been submitted for this meeting. Agenda item 7, Tees Valley Combined Authority. And I'm going to pass over to the Mayor to present the report.
If it's okay, I'll merge 7 and 8, so just do it in one go. So the TVCA, I've recently taken on finance and portfolio for my sins, because it's incredibly important that we get that right. I think we need a better understanding of what the finances are, and how we can make sure that we secure more money from the regions, and make sure that we get absolutely every single penny that we can to make sure that the towns collectively thrive. The improvement board, the summary has not been announced yet, but the first report is ready for Cabinet to come in, but it will be published in due course. And lastly, the Transport Bridge, we'll be continuing talks with the TVCA The TVCA have known for some time exactly how much money was required, and we're not allowing them to just change their mind about decisions like that when it matters about infrastructure and heritage. With the council, the neighbourhood caretakers, I hope that you've had a chance to meet them or you've seen some of the work that they've been doing. They're now getting out and about even more. They are an incredible asset to us as a council, but they are just a first step about what we need to do to get environmental standards back to where they need to be. So I look forward to making sure that we continue to further neighbourhood caretakers and other environmental initiatives. The settlement, we are now in the final phases of waiting for what our settlement will be. I think everyone's quite anxious to make sure that we get the right result. I am absolutely confident that I have lobbied and harassed, in some cases, ministers as much as I possibly can. I don't think we should take anything as certain, so any of the initial sort of forecasting we've had, I'm not going to take any of that as certain until we actually see what the numbers are going to be, because it's important that we don't work on hypothesis. And then lastly, the Middlesbrough Priorities Fund was recently agreed at exec, and this includes a lot of initiatives, but they are not limited to homelessness intervention team to make sure that we can actually start to work with some of our rough sleepers and get them to proper accommodation. We've agreed to fund the IRIS programme, which is a piece of training, and it works with GPs in order to spot signs of domestic violence, so that we can correctly get people the help that they need. A domestic abuse coordinator, because if I'm honest, we have put strain on that as a service, and it's been cut in previous years, but we absolutely need to make sure that we enhance that as a service. There'll be grants for schools, and those will be announced soon, and what I will do is I'll send out the form to all councillors once it's ready, because I want local schools applying. I want them to be coming forward and trying to claim as much money as they can to try and put on activities or to do other things that their schools desperately need. We have the NEETS programme. We are currently sourcing building or accommodation for a not in education, employment or training, which will be a scheme based in East Middlesbrough, which has the current highest need. It's incredibly important that we get that right, because we need to start to work on those young people who, if they don't have a provision, are not going to attend tomorrow. We also agreed to fund a multi-bank for years 2 and 3 up front, and we've also put more money into trading standards and a financial investigator. I think some people will be sick of me talking about the financial investigator, because I've talked about it consistently, but the financial investigator is incredibly important. So far, there are criminal acts and criminal organisations within Middlesbrough who will face some sort of jail deterrent, but actually they have financials that we should be interrogating and also reaping back for public good. So my aim is to make sure that wherever possible, it is not okay for people to profit on the back of criminality, and that we start to take some of that money back and use it for good in this town. Happy to take any questions.
Just to confirm, that was agenda item 7 and 8. I'll open up to members to ask questions on both of those agenda items. Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Just like to congratulate the caretaker team in the south area of Middlesbrough. They've already done several jobs in my area, in my ward, and I have a lot of happy residents due to that. The 2 managers that look after them, Sean, because you're not supposed to, but I'm sure they know who they are. They're doing a great job of dishing out the work to them and getting them around the various wards in the south of Middlesbrough.
Yeah, completely echo what Councillor Morris has said. And for me, it's really, really important that they're not just seen as being a resource for one area. So today they were on, I believe it was BBC, and they were sorting out a bus stop in Newport. And what we've now got to a point of is actually, instead of just doing the routine work and following a route and just doing that, they're starting to do pieces which are proactive maintenance of stuff that we've desperately wanted for so long.
Thank you. I did forget to say that that's not to knock the work that the rest of the area care team are doing, because they do an excellent job in our work as well.
Councillor.
echo what Councillor Moses said. I'm very pleased what's done, and I particularly would thank the Mayor because he gave them on board and within 2 weeks all the jobs were done, so I do appreciate that.
Please don't everyone invite me now.
Sorry. What I would say also is, can we have a bit of coordination, because in Stainton and Thornton we have the Thursday morning group, the last of the summer wine people, and they do a lot of the jobs in the village. It would be great to coordinate the team, because it would hate for them to turn up and discover the jobs to be done. So can we have some coordination, please? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely, and if I'm honest, if you'd have told me 2 years ago that David Cooper is concerned that jobs are going to be done before his residents can get there, I probably wouldn't have believed that as it stands. But this is why we need to invest in environment. It's crucial that we continue as a council to invest in those services. And in order to do that, we're going to have to make just choices. We are going to continue to have to make sure we drive down other costs in other areas and continue to lobby government. But we need to make sure that we get the environmental standards right, because it plays a crucial role in the lives of everyone.
Councillor Smart.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it was just to comment on the caretakers. Absolutely brilliant that they're getting to work in Thorpe. That's great to hear. A bit of a question for you on litter in Middlesbrough and Thorpe. We in Thorpe have got loads of people that go out in their own time litter picking. And I know that that's the case across Middlesbrough too. Lots of different groups really get into it, picking up loads of litter. I was just wondering, I get quite a few requests for litter picking equipment, and going back quite a few years now, we used to give it out for free, and I'm not asking it to be given out willy-nilly, but if residents get in contact with the council and specifically ask for a litter picker and some equipment, whether we could fund that or look for a way to fund that?
Yes, in short. So currently resources like that, and ourselves, I go quite regularly, so Newport Hub, for example, keep a stash of all of that. But actually, and the report will be coming later this year into the sort of the neighbourhoods model a bit more, and how the different bases are going to look and how they're going to be designed. But as part of that, we need to sort of keep those things in stock, because the neighbourhood venues, and I'm trying to call them hubs, need to stop becoming a place where actually the public can't access and start to become a place where actually residents come and go and they are able to build up those connections and they're able to ask for the exact equipment that you just stated. So yes, we'll make that available.
Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. There was some very interesting polling that came out from Sky News today, which suggests that immigration is now the top issue of public concern for the first time since the Brexit referendum. Out of interest, it's overtaken the economy. However, I'm sure we can all agree that this is not due to the Labour government's current economic policy, whereby we have a Chancellor who literally breaks down in the House of Commons. I welcome the Mayor's comments last week regarding there being no asylum seekers currently being housed in Middlesbrough hotels. Yet, can the Mayor confirm that he would oppose any such move in the future to house asylum seekers in Middlesbrough, and that he would take any and all necessary legal action open to the Council to resist having asylum seekers housed in Middlesbrough hotels in the future? Can he further confirm how many asylum seekers the Council believe are currently being housed in Middlesbrough in private and social accommodation? Last week we received word from Tees Valley Mayor Ben Houchen that he would be seeking to introduce town guards to Middlesbrough Town Centre. Can the Mayor confirm he will back these plans, and does he agree that this measure is a damning indictment of our present Police and Crime Commissioner, Matt Story's tenure thus far? To put it simply, as one resident told me last week, he would feel safer walking in eastern Ukraine than through the town centre. It has emerged this evening as well that it will take over 1 year for Middlesbrough Council to remove the Linthorpe Road cycle lane. Can the Mayor provide an explanation for this ridiculous timescale? I think it would be possible to rebuild the entirety of Linthorpe Road within that time. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, first order. Linthorpe cycle lane, we are going to do it with no road closures. Actually, that's quite a win. It means that actually we won't have to close the road at all. And that's a contractor that has set those time parameters, which the Tees Valley members are aware of, and has chosen now to realise that that's the case. The town guards, so that's a Middlesbrough proposal that the Middlesbrough Council officers have worked really hard on and is not anywhere near being ready. Sadly, the Tees Valley Mayor, instead of following due process, has decided to just randomly announce it when actually what we need to do, when given that they're under a best value notice, is properly adhere to governance and not announce decisions before they've actually been sanctioned. The second part to that is they will not replace police. So that needs to be a very, very clear distinction. The Cleveland Police have had no conversations with the TVCA regarding those powers. And actually, they will not agree to powers for people that have not yet been employed or contracted, because that will be a direction of their own duty. In good news, though, the Police and Crime Commissioner, Matt Story, has managed to secure neighbourhood officers, and there will be 4 additional officers for the town centre, starting hopefully at the end of this year. Proper police who are able to do that job that we need. And on your first question, no, there will be no asylum hotels or hotels used for asylum in Middlesbrough. And yes, I would, because we have already agreed with government a pause for this region, and it's incredibly important that government sticks to those principles. So for some time, Middlesbrough has been on a pause, and if anything, that means that actually we need to be very careful about the misinformation that's spread. I know that in your leader's ward, he's faced incredible backlash from residents who've claimed that asylum seekers have moved in to the sporting lodge, which is just simply untrue. And actually, by spreading this false information, it just does nothing but create upset and division. So I would urge against it.
Councillor.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for that, Mayor. You'll have to forgive me, my hearing isn't quite what it used to be. But just to clarify, you believe that a timescale of 1 year to sort out the cycle lane is clearly acceptable and is clearly fine. For further clarification, you can't tell me how many asylum seekers are currently being housed in Middlesbrough in private and social accommodation, and you would perhaps not accept the introduction of town governments into Middlesbrough city centre.
No, I would accept a proposal when it comes before the council, as we are currently working it up, soon to go and forward plan. But that proposal, as we've designed it, also includes CCTV operatives. Now, if you ask me, one of the biggest problems that we have is we have a town full of CCTV and not enough operatives to be able to manage it. So if we're going to talk about proposals, we should talk about them properly. We should probably get them worked up in full before we then run around announcing them. Is it okay for it to take a year? If it doesn't mean shutting the road, I believe that's it, yeah. I would rather that we didn't shut that road at any point if we can avoid it. But equally, we probably would have had this work started a lot sooner if the Tees Valley Mayor agreed with me in the first place and didn't spend ages arguing against funding that scheme, which he wrongly agreed to fund in the first place.
Any further questions from members? Councillor Paguri.
Thank you very much, Chair. I welcome the Mayor's response to the asylum seekers, which has been asked by a member here. I must know about the Mayor agrees with me that when we are talking about asylum seekers, we are talking about human beings. I also want to hear from the Mayor whether he agrees with me that as a country, it's our responsibility to look after those who are running away from prostitution. And is it true that asylum seekers are illegal? We all know that being an asylum seeker, you have to be able to be here. If you are not illegal, whatever you said that. So, you are with me, Mr. Mayor, that we need to be careful when we are talking about human beings who are seeking protection, who are running away from wars that probably have been instigated by some of our friends. They should think much.
No, I absolutely agree that there should be no divisive rhetoric. But I think there is equally The reason that we've gone on the pause is because for a long time Middlesbrough's numbers were higher than other places. So what we need to make sure is that there is balance, so that everyone is fairly taking the numbers that are required. So for me, I think it's about that balance, and it's also about making sure that we treat this conversation with the sort of respect and dignity that it deserves. And I think often that gets lost in everyone, because the world at the minute is very tense, and the world at the minute is full of people who are not, if I'm honest, are not just going out maliciously to cause some of this division, but they are looking for answers and they're unable to find them, and they are being given a solution which is not the correct one. They're being given people to blame who are not the correct people. And what we should be focusing on is making sure that the North, and our town in particular, gets the fair funding that it deserves. So actually we can start to alleviate some of the issues faced by our residents, because we've had our fair share of that funding, and that needs to be the first stance that we always try and approach. Because if we are better equipped to help everyone, then everyone wins from that.
Any further questions from the members? Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 9 now, which is executive member reports. There is 10 executive member report questions that have been received. Please note that Councillor Gallagher, executive member for Environment and Sustainability, has submitted his apologies. So questions will be submitted via email. We're going to allow all members to ask their first question and then a supplementary question on the same topic. And we have obviously got a lot of questions to get through this evening. So, first question is for the Deputy Mayor and Executive Member for Education and Culture, Councillor Philippa Story. And that is on page 2, paragraph 2.33. And it's on changes to uniform from Councillor Wilson.
Councillor Story, thank you. Last week, I had a conversation with a young lady outside my front. Just an old conversation, and it turned sour. She got one up her daughter, she had 8 students in Public Academy Oxford. Wouldn't allow her to school because she had a slight flare on school trousers. When I took my wife down to school, she was in the same site. There were 7 young ladies with the same problem. It's like trousers. They were excluded from school for that week. You know, there were 2 problems there. The children from education and education problem, and it's costing money for these parents to go and buy more trousers, like £60 for a pair of trousers for them. Is anything we do about these academies and make them realise it's just not fair on these parents, just for a slight flare? When I say slight flare, I mean a slight flare. Is anything we do about it?
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Unfortunately, in that instance, there isn't, because academies are autonomous and they have control over their own uniform policies. The only thing that is happening, obviously, is legislation which is going to go through Parliament at the minute, and that comes into effect in 2026, and that limits the amount of branded items. But in terms of the actual uniform specifications, such as you're speaking about, unfortunately, they are academies, they are autonomous, and we have no control over that.
Next question is for Executive Member of Children's Services, Councillor Luke Henman, page and paragraph 1.1. The subject is Joe Tynan from Councillor Finch.
Reading the Councillor's report, I know that he thanks the outgoing Director of Children's Services, and can I also just thank Joe for all the help he's given me as the chair of the People Scrutiny Panel and of the Children's Scrutiny Panel, and so I just share the words that are mentioned in that report.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'll certainly pass those words on. Joe left Middlesbrough Council last month after 2 years, and he left Middlesbrough Council in a much better place in terms of children's services than when he found it. We've had a much more stabilised workforce, a supportive culture, and together with our Director of Children's Care and other officers, he's really driven forward things in terms of quality and consistency of practice as well. I'd like to add my personal thanks for the support he gave me as an incoming executive member, which was really appreciated. I think that we've got a great platform with which to work when we have our new Executive Director for Children's Services and Wellbeing starting very shortly. So I'm really pleased to be able to put that on record.
Next question is for Executive Member of Development, Councillor Theo Finesse. Pages 1 to 2, paragraph 1.3. It's on HMOs from Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, Councillor. My question tonight is about how many HMOs we have in the town, and also how many have been approved by officers without going through the planning process, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe, for that question. Obviously, HMO the actual direction that we put in place was for the reason that HMOs will spring up everywhere in the town, even in areas that you don't suspect them. Just on a normal street in the suburbs that maybe known for, HMOs could pop up. So it gives a bit more control to us as a local authority, us as councillors. The actual number is 280 currently. That's HMOs that have over 5 occupants. Under that, 4, which are out before stopped and made them come to planning. We don't know the exact numbers, but since the period of February, since Article 4 came into place, we've had 18 applications of retrospective, and out of those 8, I think we've had 11 that have been accepted, and the other 7 are under process. And just a little bit more information to add to this. When it comes to actually the planning decision, officers can't make a decision without, if there's an objection, it will go to the planning committee. If the officers have an objection themselves, then obviously they can deny it. But if say a HMO application went in, no local residents complained, or the council didn't complain, and then the officer could make a delegated decision. It's not an automatic thing that it goes to the planning committee. So I would obviously ask all residents and councillors of Middlesbrough, if you have a HMO in your area, if you have an objection or you feel residents have an objection, maybe voice that formally to the planning committee to have it tabled. So obviously, like you said, an officer could make a decision, but it's obviously if there has been any objection, then the officer can't make a decision, have to go to committee.
Next question was for Councillor Gallagher, but I've spoke to Councillor Wilson outside and he's going to send that via email. So next question is for Executive Member of Finance, Councillor Morgan, and it is page 3, paragraph 2.8 on the budget forecast from Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Chair. Just quickly, I'd like to actually thank the Finance Executive for the time that she spent judging the dog show for Manchester Community Council. She spent about 4 hours on the feet, and it's much appreciated on their behalf. Thank you. I know that to return within budget may require the use of 6.195 million from contingencies. In previous statements, the Labour Group have strongly criticised the independent administration for using contingencies to address overspending. Can you explain why it is now appropriate to fund the failure to deliver within budget by using contingencies? And I'm surprised that the reports of the executive members for Children's Services and Adult Social Care fail to mention that significant overspend in their departments. These reports also fail to mention and address the failure to deliver savings. How can we have confidence in the information provided to us by executive members when they selectively ignore the key issues facing their service areas? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you for your question, and thank you very much for inviting me to
the Marquess Monday. There's a question of accuracy there. I think you mentioned the failure to determine the budget. We have not failed to determine the budget. This, as the report makes clear, it is if action isn't taken, successful action isn't taken to bring within budget. And rewind to last year, and I think you was talking about avoiding this. I deliberately put these in my report, so they're in my reports and not necessarily others, to give that transparency, and I do it every time we have quarterly meetings, so that, because I think the members here have a right to know that. And if you remember last year, it was a lower, it's like the lower overspend we were projecting at this time. I said that I explained that we always had overspend projected early in the year, nearly always. That was actually borne out by the chair of the Independent Advisory Board, who said that virtually all councils have that. So it is a process of, the budget monitoring is a process by which we highlight problems, we highlight issues that are emerging in order to deal with them, so that the aim is, my aim still is, to bring within budget at the end of the year. Another correction is, you said I criticised the previous administration for use of contingencies. That isn't correct either. What I criticised was the use of reserves, where the reserves, the usable reserves, were depleted by 75%, from 16 million down to 4 million. And that is why we had to go for exceptional financial support, because we had nothing left there in order to cover any overspends that could arise from the budget. So we have started to build those reserves back up. In terms of children's services in particular, there is going to be a members' briefing, and I think it's really important that members can challenge on this subject. It's a very important subject. But I will say as well, I could be reporting a lesser overspend if we'd set the budget set differently, if we put in a bigger cushion to allow for fluctuations in the budget, and then we wouldn't have things like, but that would have taken money out of the budget. So we wouldn't then have had the investment that we've been talking about tonight. So we wouldn't have had these state care savings. We wouldn't have had the additional money going into area care. We wouldn't have had the additional money for trade maintenance. We wouldn't have had the additional money to clean drains. We wouldn't have had the additional money for pest control. We wouldn't have had the additional money for going into youth provision and child enrichment. All those things that members are starting to say, their residents say that we wouldn't have had the ward budget. All those things that members are starting to say your residents are noticing, we wouldn't have had if we just, and the Mayor and I just played it more safely on the budget for this year. But the intention is still to return to the budget at the end of the year, so it's the end of the year that's important, not the beginning. So just a reminder on that, you do recall that you said, if we return within budget at the end of the last financial year, you buy the officers a drink. So I want to be helpful. So I found out that on a Monday evening, because I think it should be in the town hall, because you want to keep money back in the council, I think we agree with that. You get it at a lower rate. But also, I found out today, well, that's like Deputy Mayor, they actually have a portable bar. So you could buy all the officers a drink before the council meeting. So that's a suggestion. Apparently we've also got a portable Prosecco bar. So that would be preferable. I mean, if you really have, you can use the downstairs room and the Southern Cross, which you stand this way as well. But don't forget that promise that you made, because some officers are really looking forward to that drink.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I would like to correct one of Councillor Walker's corrections. I didn't say that she'd criticised previous administration. I said that the Labour Party had, all the Labour members, so not her personally. On the drinks, it'd probably go to a local business, which may be Mountain Cricket Club. It's cheap in there. As a member, I think it's a lot cheaper. And it's quite a limited bar. Thank you.
I'm really pleased we're making progress on this because there was no plans made at all, but at least we're firming things up. Maybe by the next council meeting or the next installment, the second quarter's report will actually have a date for it, because I know Director of Finance certainly wouldn't arrange any of his leave and miss that very important date.
Okay, so the next two questions, and we'll say both questions and then give a chance for Councillor Phillips to respond. But it's on page 2, paragraph 2.34, and it's on exclusions and suspensions, and then exclusions. I'm going to invite Councillor Wilson to pose his question first.
Actually, could that be when I was included on the school uniforms, with the children being excluded at that time?
It just says exclusions and suspensions, but it may...
I think that's where it would be, but at the same time, we talk about the children with sufficient because the children, their trousers in school uniforms.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Sorry, there is another question just on your side of the sheet. Yeah. So, yeah, Councillor Thompson and then Councillor Uden. So, Councillor Thompson, if you want to pose your question first.
Thank you, Chair. From 2022 to date, there's been 329 permanent excluded pupils. And as you know, we have a duty as an authority that children receive an education. Can the Deputy Mayor tell me how much it costs per child to educate and who are the providers? Thank you. And I'd like a supplementary, please. Thank you.
Councillor Uden, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Mike was on the same point here, actually, to page 20.23.4. That's exclusion and suspension, yeah? That's the obviously report states that academic year 2024-25 has seen a reduction in the number of permanent exclusion issued by the Middlesbrough schools. I think it's really good news, and I'm really pleased with that. Obviously, the numbers coming down. But however, on the page next page, you have obviously down 2022-23, that's 112, and 23-24, 111. Then 24-25 this year, you got 106. So my question is, obviously with this 106 young people, where are they going? Are we have a plan for their alternative education or whatever for them? Yeah, it's obviously to be horrendous for the parents, as you understand. Thank you.
Just to clear up, so Councillor Thompson obviously sort of answered your question based off the information. You can't have a second question, so it would purely be based off the information. Yeah.
Thank you. Can I just say, I'm really pleased to actually get some questions. It's really nice. It's nice when people actually do read my reports. I was getting really worried. These are all really valid questions, particularly on the uniform suspensions and exclusions. We can't force academies to have a very specific uniform code. They have their uniform code. But I do think they really do need to be mindful about what they're excluding and suspending pupils on. And this is a lot of ongoing work that is currently taking place with the Exclusion Partnership. Because we know that it's an issue, and there are certain schools who are more prevalent at doing that, and it is work that is ongoing and needs to continue because it is a huge expense for the council. So at the minute it costs £23,000 per student when a child is permanently excluded from school per year. So it's a huge cost. One of the reasons why it's really important to try and keep children in school, in mainstream school, and to get away from the permanent exclusions and suspensions is to actually bring that cost down for everybody. We do have a number of providers. So we have 23 alternative provision providers that are listed on the Tees Valley AP frame. That's alternative providers. Out of those 23, we currently use 7 of them. So we have Hopefields, Tees Valley College The Keys, Outward Eston, Progress, Reintegrate, Education Plus, and Tees Valley AP Academy. I'm going to jump again. So on day 6 of permanent exclusion, that is when a child has to have the education put in place. Where am I? So we currently use, I have written this down. Yeah, so we currently use our TMAT, which is the River Tees Multi-Academy Trust, to act in a capacity for us and are commissioned by day 7 following permanent exclusion. Now, that is basically a pupil referral unit, but we do that ourselves through our TMAT, and it's their job to find the right alternative provision for those students. So in day 6, that's when the provision is put in place. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. 329 permanent excluded pupils times 23,000. That's quite a substantial amount of money, isn't it? So does the Deputy Mayor agree with me that if the financial onus was on the schools, there would probably be less permanent exclusions?
I think schools would be far more inclined to look at the policies and how they operate. Obviously there is stuff that's going through at the minute with the children welfare and education bill, which we're looking forward to, but there definitely needs to be a sea shift in power at the minute. Our academies do fantastic work, our children do brilliantly in their education settings most of the time, but we do need to have some power over how and where academy trusts are excluding and suspending children, because as we've seen from Councillor Wilson, some of those reasons are quite spurious and not really the substantial reasons you would expect a school to use for suspending and excluding children. So I absolutely do agree, yes.
The next question is for Executive Member of Children's Services, paragraph 8.3, and it's on trees from Councillor Udu.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the residential and support accommodation point 8.3. Obviously, the report suggests that executive member said he is thrilled to the report that the fair tree has been inspected and judged to be good. We have made significant strides in this area, with 7 out of 8 homes being rated as good. I must say, it has been really bad over the years. 23, as you know, I mean, if you read the report 8.2, it will tell you a bit more about it. But what I'm saying, I'd like just to comment on the question, it has been absolutely brilliant at this point, because in 23 we were really disappointed with the whole thing. So now, 2 years on, obviously out of 8 homes, 6 are good, which is absolutely brilliant. So I thank you for that. And obviously congratulate you and the team, as well as our workforce. Obviously we mentioned about Joe Tynan, and Joe Tynan did a fantastic work on this, as well as our DCC, Dawn, I can't remember the second name, sorry, Dawn, yeah. Obviously they did the fantastic work, so they are saying, still there are a lot of work to do. It's good to make a bit more improvement, obviously, yeah. But at this point, the 2 years on, I think we've made significant improvement. So really thank you, and thank all the workforce and everyone.
I'm really grateful for Councillor Udin's comments there, because working in children's services on the front line can be really tough, and I think staff have really excelled in the work that's happened recently to move on that improvement journey as we have over this year is really phenomenal, and I'm really proud of the work that our staff have done. What we're doing now is looking at how best we use our children's homes and making sure that they support our young people in the most effective way possible, and looking at what that offer is and making sure that we have the full occupancy that we need going forward. But that comes on a solid base of driving that quality and consistency. So I'm really proud of our staff, and I'll certainly pass Councillor Udin's comments on.
And the last question is for Executive Member for Development, Councillor Theo Finesse. Pages 2 to 3, paragraph 2.1, on Lunthorpe Community Centre from Councillor Moorish.
Thank you, Chair. In your report, page 37, first paragraph, Lunthorpe Community Centre preferred operator in Lunthorpe Parish Council. Are they really felt to be suitable as the preferred operator? They currently appear to be dysfunctional, ignore good governance practices, and have so far appeared to ignore requests to review for them. They haven't got any resilience measures in place, as the clerk is off sick and they can't access any files while she's off. Were their governance policies assessed and shown to be complied with under this tender process? Had the connections with the local Greenways project mentioned in your report been looked into? Is cronyism alive and well? Should this management contract go back out to tender to give them the opportunity to correct any failings? Otherwise, the community centre could possibly fail within months of opening due to the aforementioned issues. And to add to all of that, several members are subject to a police investigation by DC 2418 Kate D. Nobriga of the fraud team Economic Crime Unit, which I believe they are all aware of.
I'm just going to stop you there, councillors. We can't comment on police matters. You can continue, but you can't comment on police matters. And it needs to relate to exactly what is required.
The police department then.
If I'm honest, I don't find the question appropriate. It's probably not best to conduct any sort of contractual discussion in open public. If there's decisions that need to be made, you can do them privately, and if there is concerns that you have, I'd welcome you to raise them. But I think we need to be careful about committing to any statements or contracts or anything of that nature. It's not good luck.
Thank you. As long as you're not obviously commenting on the police matters, just don't comment on that.
I'd be more than happy to have a meeting with you, Theo, and the Mayor. Chief Executive, whoever.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor. We're going to move on to agenda item 10, which is the report of the Overview and Scrutiny Report. I'm going to invite Councillor Elliot to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. It's a standard report, but I'll just make a couple of comments on it. We had a very full agenda for last meeting, thanks to the Mayor for attending and staying for a very long time to answer lots of questions. The panel also set into scrutiny work. The first piece of work will be about poverty and sort of policy around that. And next meeting we will be having Deputy Mayor. I'd also want to say that the meeting after that, quite interesting meeting, we'll be having both the Chair of the Middlesbrough Development Corporation and the Chief Operating Officer will be in attendance. And I think that's quite an important thing because we don't often get many opportunities to scrutinise their work. I hope that will be a very interesting meeting. Thank you. I'll answer your questions.
Any questions from members? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Young, can you just clarify that? Is OSB a public meeting? Thank you.
Yes, it will be.
Thank you. Any further questions on the OSB report? Okay, moving on to agenda item 11, urgent items. There is no urgent items this evening. Agenda item 12, there's no valid questions that have been submitted for this meeting also, so we will move on to agenda item 14. There's no urgent motions this evening either. So agenda item 15, we're going to move on to the member schemes of allowance, and I'm going to invite the monitor officer to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. So I assume all members have read the report in the appendix as well. I'll give some context as to this report and why it's been brought forward. So the Council is legally required to publish a scheme of allowances for members each year, which describes the allowances that members receive in connection with their work. The law provides that the Council must establish a panel of independent people, so people independent of members and of the Council, to consider member allowances and to consider all the information that would be required in order to set the scheme of allowances. The panel must then make independent recommendations about our scheme of member allowances. The panel's report is at Appendix 1 to the cover report. The panel in their report has recognised that members' basic allowances have slipped well below the Teesside average and recommends an increase in the basic allowance. To move now on to the options to members, so there is a vote required on this report, and the options open to members are to accept the recommendations in full, that's the recommendations of the independent panel, or not to accept the recommendations of the independent panel, and if then the independent panel members' recommendations are not accepted, then the current scheme will run on and will be republished, unless and until members want to use as a jumping off point the independent panel's recommendations and consider their own scheme. So the vote will be as to whether you accept or do not accept the recommendations of the independent panel. Thank you.
I'm going to open up to questions and invite Councillor Morris to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask for a procedural motion under 4341E to adjourn the debate until the next meeting. I'd like to propose this agenda item is deferred to provide members with the opportunity to have a briefing from officers on the rationale and implications of these proposals.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Clinch. I'll pass back over to the moderator to conduct the vote.
Okay, so we're voting now as to whether to approve the procedure motion as proposed by Councillor Morris. Those in favour, show of hands, those in favour. Thank you. That procedural motion is carried.
We're moving on to agenda item 16, which is vacancies on committees and outside bodies for 2025-2026. I'm going to invite the Monarch Officer to present this section.
Thank you. So these, first I'll assume that members have had an opportunity to read the report, and these vacancies are those that are outstanding either from the annual council meeting or as a result of resignations from committees. So the first vacancies are on You Matter to Us Corporate Parenting Board, and there are 2 vacancies. They're open to all members, so are there any nominations, please? Okay, those vacancies will remain then, thank you. And next, Corporate Health and Safety Steering Group. There are 3 vacancies, and so far we've had 1 nomination for Councillor Thompson, Councillor Janet Thompson. Are there any other nominations? There's 2 more vacancies. Okay, in which case one of the places will go to Councillor Thompson, the other 2 places will be held over. Outside bodies now, and first of all, Hartlepool Power Station Local Liaison Committee, 1 vacancy. Any nominations, please? No?
Sean.
Yes. Councillor Blades, you're nominating yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, so that, unless there are any others, that vacancy will go to Councillor Blades. We'll move on and then we'll come back to, there's a technical issue here, but we'll come back to that after we've concluded the rest of the list. Thank you, Councillor, for that. So, next one, North East Regional Joint Health Scrutiny Committee, and there's 1 vacancy. Are there any nominations, please? No, well, that one will be held over, that vacancy will be held over. Then on to executive appointments, staying put advisory committee, and there is one vacancy and one nomination for Councillor Dorothy Davison. Any other nominations? Okay, so that place goes to Councillor Davison, thank you. And lastly, I believe Tennis World, 2 vacancies and 2 nominations so far, Councillor Davison and Councillor McConnell. Any other nominations for Tennis World? Okay, those 2 places go to Councillors McConnell and Davison. So back to the first of the vacancies that I announced, which is UMatters, was called Parenting Board. And apologies to Councillor Sharon Platt, you had nominated, there had been a nomination for you for one of those 2 vacancies. So that nomination still stands, and you would like them to take one of those vacancies unless there are any other nominations. So in which case, one of those places goes to you, Councillor Platt. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Henman.
Could I just clarify, I think Councillor Nugent's previously expressed an interest. Could you clarify if she's currently on the interviews already in process?
Yes. Okay, that concludes the vacancies. Thank you.
Agenda item 17, Council Constitution. Just to clarify, within the cover report, section 4.3, it states that in addition to noting some technical amendments and typographical changes, Constitution and the Development Committee made the following further substantive amendments includes that chairs and vice chairs will be appointed by committees. As per the Constitution Members Development Committee, the 20th of August 2025, it was agreed that this will be amended to chairs and vice chairs will be appointed by full council as set out in the proposed constitution. For the avoidance of doubt, the proposed constitution that has been circulated is correct. It is the cover report that does not reflect the up-to-date position as agreed at the CMDC. Therefore, I propose an amendment to the cover report so it reflects what was agreed at the CMDC committee. The proposed amendment is to replace the sentence of paragraph 3.4, chairs and vice chairs will be appointed by committees with chairs and vice chairs will be appointed by full council. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor. I want to pass over to the Monitor Officer to conduct a vote on the amendment.
Thank you. So you've all heard the amendment proposed by Councillor Banks. Can I see a show of hands for those in favour of supporting the amendment? Thank you. That amendment's carried.
Thank you. Are there any further questions or comments on the Constitution? Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I also like to propose an amendment, and it's on page 43, and it's relating to the budget meeting. First, I'd like to say I'm grateful to the monitoring officer and also others who have been working on the Constitution. Took on my suggestion that the way the Constitution currently, the previous Constitution, covered our budget meeting, didn't, in my view, give enough time for people to present the report and for others to speak on it. So that has been addressed. But on page 43, whilst it mentions the mover, the seconder and group leaders' opportunities to speak in 10 minutes, it doesn't actually state that other members can speak on the budget report. Now it is covered, technically covered elsewhere in the Constitution, but just for clarity, I'm suggesting that it's actually mentioned in that section. So the amendment I'm proposing is 4.3.4 H3 be inserted, which would state any member who has not already spoken may speak for up to 3 minutes during the general debate. So that is the amendment I'm suggesting, and that will put it in line with what's already in the Constitution and in other debates in the council meeting. But it's just for clarification.
Is there a second there for that? Councillor Starry, thank you. Councillor Walker. Just going to pass over to the Monitor Officer to conduct a vote on the amendment.
Thank you. Can I see a show of hands for all those those in favour of that amendment? Thank you, that amendment's carried.
Is there any further questions on the council constitution from any members? Councillor?
Thanks, Chair. I've spent quite a bit of time going through the Constitution, and I believe it is worth voting for the amendments that have been proposed in their entirety. However, having read it, I do believe there are still some minor governance issues in there and potential political considerations. So, in a future council meeting, I'm going to obviously reach out to the monitoring officer ahead of this. There may be some amendments for myself, but just to make members aware of that.
Thank you, Councillor. And I'm going to pass over to the monitoring officer to conduct a vote on the council constitution.
Before I conduct the vote, thank you, Councillor Hemman, for your comments. And what I would say is that this constitution is a working document, it's a living document, and so we will, if needed, if suggested, consider amendments to the Constitution. The Constitution Member Development Committee, of course, has the responsibility of overseeing that any amendments to the Constitution, bring them forward to full council. That committee meets regularly, can consider amendments to the Constitution as members would suggest, but also we will have a rolling programme of constitutional review, not quite as wholesale as we've been going through over this last year, but we will keep the Constitution under review, and we'll bring an updated version of the Constitution. I hesitated before I said that word because I wouldn't propose we'll wholesale change it again, but an updated version of the Constitution before the annual meeting next year to the Constitution Committee. So please be assured that we will keep an eye on the Constitution and an ear out to members as to what is working and what's not working. Thank you. And so can I conduct a vote? All those in favour of approving the proposed Constitution? Thank you. That's approved.
And just finally, before I do close the meeting, I think it's worth noting that there was a vast amount of work from officers and members that went into the Constitution over a number of months, and there was lots of people involved within that process, so a massive thanks to everyone that was involved, and no doubt we'll be able to work moving forward. I'd like to formally close the meeting. Have a safe journey along.